Hi everyone, I'm Sue. Welcome to Blue Heron Hill. Down in the basement in my seed starting area, and we're going to be talking about these little gems. This one was from my garden last year, this sweet potato. I want to grow more of these. And I hope you do too. They are worthwhile, although they take a few extra steps. You can't just plant these right into the garden and expect to get sweet potatoes. If you did plant that right into the garden, you could get foliage, and you'd get lots of foliage. There'd be vines everywhere. And then even at the nodes of where those the leaves come off the vine itself, it may send down some roots. And those roots are basically there to provide nutrition and moisture for the growing vines. But left long enough, those will actually produce tubers that you can get sweet potatoes off of them. But that's a very long growing period for a sweet potato. Most sweet potatoes, they're on about 85 to even 160 days of a growing season. My growing season here is about 130 plus or minus. And so I don't have that much time if I want to get a harvest of sweet potatoes. Even if you added on the sprouting of this sweet potato in the ground and all those trailing vines and the roots that went down, that's going to add another, maybe 30 to 50 days onto that growing period. I don't have that much time. And there aren't very many growing hardiness zones that would give us that much time to do it in that method. Growing sweet potatoes isn't as easy as just putting a seed into some soil, watching the seedling come up, produce flowers, and then watching the mature fruit grow until harvest, like we do with tomatoes and peppers and different vegetables and fruits and vegetables that we have in our garden. So as a savvy gardener, we need to jumpstart the growth of these tubers. And we're going to do that by forcing this sweet potato to produce what's called slips that we can plant directly into our garden and skip over all that long early growing requirement. So we're going to force this sweet potato to give us slips, and then we're going to plant those slips that will give us, and hopefully within our growing period, 85 to 160 days, and it'll give us a nice harvest of sweet potatoes. So starting early is our best option. Now, there are basically two methods to use to produce slips that we can then grow to put into our garden. One method, and I'll take you in close and we will check these out. One method is the sweet potato into a jar of water. And you usually, if you can figure it out, this would be the end that's closest to the slip, and that would be the continuing root end. And that's just going to go into the water. And some people put toothpicks in here to suspend that sweet potato in the water, like so. Oop, and the water came out all over the place. Or, in my case, what I do is I just plop it right into the jar. And as you can see, and these I started about 2 weeks ago, this particular one has roots on it already. And that's exactly what we want. That's the first thing you're going to see when you do it in this method. Here's another one, has a great amount of roots growing here. And this one in particular, if you can see, has a little slip just starting to protrude out of the skin of this sweet potato. There's another small one right below it, pretty microscopic. And I don't know if I see anything else. But there are some nodes that are beginning to press out along the surface of this sweet potato. So I'm going to gently push this back in there. Don't want to break any of those roots. I don't find that the toothpicks really need to do that. As long as you aren't banging this up and down and bruising the end of that sweet potato, I think you're just fine doing it this way. This one, I can see one just starting to protrude right here. And there's also a small one just coming out down here. And there's another one just coming out down there. Pretty microscopic almost. I don't know that you can see them. But we're going to let this continue to go. I will change my water a couple times a week, I think. And just because you don't want, if you can see, the water is kind of cloudy, kind of golden, browny and stuff. And I think that's from the whatever's left on the skin area of the sweet potato. So that's one way. And already after 2 weeks, I have just some starting to pop out. The next method is putting your sweet potatoes into a tray of soil, whether it is potting soil or seed starter. You can use seed starter. I don't think a sweet potato needs any added nutrients at all, because everything it needs is within this tuber that it needs to send forth slips. Now this one has pretty prominent slips already. There's 1, 2, there's another one coming out of there, there's another one down there. There's one, I don't know if you see it on this side, there's one coming out here, right at the soil level. And I can feel that the roots, I can barely pull that out of the soil. So the roots are going down into this substrate here. And there was even a root popping out. I just covered it up with a little soil. But you keep this nice and moist, nice and hydrated, and it should work just fine. I don't even poke holes in the bottom of this because you're putting these directly into water. So what's different about overhydrating this? Now, of course, I am not going to let it be so swampy, but I will lightly touch the surface of the soil and determine whether it needs a little bit more water. I did another one here. Here are another pair of sweet potatoes that I put in here. And as I try and pull these out, I can tell that they're being held into the ground by some roots. So I'm not going to, try any harder than that. I don't really see anything. Oh, here's one little protrusion right there. So that's good news. I am feeling this soil, and I do think it needs a splash of water. These I'm keeping on a heating mat. And I have put a humidity dome on top. Probably now that they've started to sprout, it's not totally needed, but I certainly think it's not going to hurt, at least for a while until the slips get a little taller. My sweet potatoes that are in the water, I actually had these up on a sunny windowsill, kind of near my wood stove, so they were keeping a little bit on the warm side. So those are the two methods that you use to produce your slips. So when these slips get big enough, I'm going to do part 2, and you're going to see what happens next in the process. Told you this wasn't really an easy process. It's easy to get the slips growing and everything, but there are many steps that you need to check off before they actually can grow in the ground. But I think it's worth it. So Thanks for following me on this video. Stay tuned for the next in the series. I may have some other videos in between part 1 and part 2, sweet potatoes. Please subscribe. Hit that notification bell and you will be notified every time I post a new video. So thanks for following along on this video, and until the next time that we can go digging in the dirt, bye.